Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest narration of the web series Accidentally Adopted. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Part 3, Chapter 2, Ignitia. Journal entry 19, date 134. Name, Greg George. Well, I did it. I fucking did it. I spoke, and I didn't get zapped. And nobody got by an infected. I feel fucking stupid for being so goddamned relieved. I can hear Dr. Johan telling me that those feelings aren't a part of my logical mind and were ingrained deep into me by my experiences. If I was stupid, I wouldn't have them and be dead. Thank you, internal therapist voice. I'm good to talk to my friends, but I'll keep on with signing to the crew. Everyone's schedules were clear because we were supposed to dock today, but apparently the station is flooded with traffic for some reason, and Control parked us in waiting orbit for a day. Well, fine. I needed to get the tactical data on the local parks anyway. I went to Mom first and told her, with signs because I was still screwing myself up for this crap, that I want to tell my story, but it might be too much for the kids. Lucy, she said her actual name, but feck, writing names in blue seas is part of a halfway, and the decision is hers, she told me. Halfway to what? Adulthood, probably. She set up Linus in his cabin with some cartoons, and we sat on the sofa. I didn't want the table between us. Then I told them about Ignitia, about Ray, about Pete, about the Mercy, about the shuttle, everything. Feck, it hurts. But it's okay, because my friends understand a little better. I couldn't really go further, but that's okay. It's a tough story. I asked if I still want the rest. Feck, I'm crying ugly happy tears again. A couple days. I'll be okay to go on in a couple days. Dear Diary, this is a lot to process. The following is a collection of sketches of Sneaky in various sitting poses, with the suggestion of a sofa behind and beneath him. The expressions she captured show a strange mixture of pain and hope and relief. Some sketches include Mom, Daddy, or both offering various kinds of physical comfort to Sneaky. And it finishes with a sketch of Daddy, Mom, and Trandy, all embracing a weeping Sneaky. Log 6,000,9.15 Personal Captain Yomdril. I will simply repeat what Sneaky told us. I am not a linguist, so I write all names in his language phonetically. Sweetheart, if you're reading this, I know it was hard to hear the first time. He sat amongst us on the sofa and took a shaky breath and held it. I'd expected to sign, but he spoke. My planet's name is Ignitia. The rock is still there, but Ignitia burned. You call them consumptives, we call them grubs. I was 10. My big brother Raymond and I were out with the Mountaineers. That's a hobby group for boys to learn low-tech survival skills. The highest tech thing that we used was a bolt-action rifle. Pathetic on range under a mile, but it'd put down a local fauna just fine. Both the tasty kind and the eat you kind. It was a sort of camp with about 100 of us that was overseen by some salty vets in retirement. Ray and I were going on a walk about half a mile out of camp when it happened. We were singing, because it was fun and we weren't after dinner just then. But we were singing. There was this sound out in the trees. It was this even keening, full of pain and horror, and like it wanted to be a scream. This woman stumbled out onto the trail and attacked. We tried to run. She got me. Ray punched her, and I ran. I looked back, and she was biting his throat. This woman, with a horrible giant maggot out of the back of her head, ripped my brother's throat out with her teeth. Sneaky had to stop at this moment to cough and wipe tears away. I got back to camp and told the first person I saw what happened. I wasn't the only one. 10 kids were dead. 24 had killed. We didn't know what was going on, just that the head maggots were the problem. Nobody said so, but it was my fault. Ray was dead. Pete was the oldest, and little brother to the sergeant, and he said, I'll be your brother now. The sergeant said, none of you speak reformed Cajun anymore. It's Republican battle cant. Learn it from me, from the corporals. If the maggots are in people's brains, they know how to talk. You're not allowed to die because a fecking bug heard one of you talking. Sneaky looked at his knees and took several deep, shuddering, breaths, and I put a hand between his shoulder blades. Some of his tension fell away before he controlled himself well enough to continue. I was the youngest and therefore smallest and hardest to seize. I wanted to make sure none of my friends died because of me, so I shut up. I shut up and I listened. I was a pretty good shot, so I was on watch from up in a tree most nights. There weren't many who bothered us, but I did protect my friends. I didn't miss. We trained. The sergeant and corporals put us through real infantry training, real marching, real live fire drills, real squad assaults, not games, not survival skills. How to fight, how to kill. They were convinced that back in town it was all falling apart. They were right. I became the best at moving silently, the best at seeing what's important. You have to be quiet, because the grubs have their own hearing in addition to what they steal. I got sent down the mountain to look around. The mountain town was in shambles, tiny pockets of resistance of maybe 3 families together. The rest of the people were dead, infected, or in pens. I saw a spreader on my first scouting. I saw a spreader, and the reason for the pens. When I told the sergeant what was going on, we sent out a rescue operation. I was on overwatch. I didn't miss. I didn't let the infected touch my brother Pete or the sergeant. We were too late to save the adults, but we saved 30 kids. Sneaky had to stop to accommodate Trevor's embrace just then. The kids told us how it was. I don't know how the grubs work for you guys, but in us, the last thing they take control of is the vocal cords. But the first thing is control of the arms and legs. So it starts with a fever. Then the victim jumps out of bed. At first they were confused, asked questions. Then the body started killing whatever was closest, and the questioning turned to begging. Begging everyone to run. Then just screaming. Then just keening. Then they go quiet just before the grubs mature and eat the victim from the inside out. That's how we knew that you're still alive inside when you take control, screaming, right up until the end. It went on like that for 2 years, as Scout goes to take a look at the next town, sometimes me, sometimes not. Then, if there were people to rescue, we did as soon as possible. We put down as many of the infected as we could. We knew they were screaming. I didn't let any of them touch my brothers. I didn't miss. Some of the boys we rescued joined up. They had to learn before we'd let them fight. But how could we say no after what they saw? We didn't find any girls. I don't know why. The grub seemed... Anyways, as we went along, every boy checked on his own house. His parents were always infected. He stopped their screaming. Eventually, we were going through my town. I had to see. There was our house. There was my dad. There was my mom. There were the grubs sticking out of their heads like throbbing tumors. Carlos was with me. He was my spotter most of the time, and he asked if I was going to leave my own parents to scream until they were grub food. I took the shots. I didn't miss. It looked like he wanted to weep, but he couldn't. We'd been cutting our way towards the spaceport since the sergeant had called down an evac shuttle. By the time we were in sight, we were low on food, low on ammo, and low on one foot in front of the other. We had to go through a bunch of infected who looked like they were trying to get into the spaceport. Republican naval infantry was mowing them down. We hit them from behind. I didn't let them touch any of my brothers. I didn't miss. We got off the rock, 306 of us fighters. Plus about 1,000 boys too little, too hurt, or just plain too busy with the fight to keep breathing another day. They called us the Lost Boys. We watched the battleships glass our home. He sobbed in our arms, quietly, but not silently. This is a far cry from what it's like to take a life in defense of your ship, an entire planet taken by the consumptives. No wonder. It is a deep honor he has shown us to share his story. He told us that this isn't the end, that actually joining his people's military came later. Dear Loggery, Mommy and Daddy said the story would be too scary. Mommy and Daddy were right. Monsters got sneakies, Mommy and Daddy. You can have my Mommy and Daddy. I can share with you. End of chapter. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters. Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Dragzoon W.R.E, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, Jon Carrington, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.